How's it going, guys? Thanks for tuning into this episode of Phil Talks Sports. Today is Sunday, May 17th. On today's episode, Kramer and I are going to give our late thoughts on the NFL draft from a couple weeks ago. We also talked some UFC, as there was some great content put out by them over the week. 3 shows over 8 days, culminating in the All-Star Overeem and Walter Harris fight from last night. And as we're talking about this, the show was still going on, so we didn't get a chance to give our thoughts on the main event, so I wanted to give those quickly. I just thought this was great. I mean, Overeem looked like he was getting knocked out within 20 seconds, fought all the way back, TKO'd Walter Harris, who, if you've seen anything about him lately, has a crazy story of his own. His daughter passing away last year. This was his first fight back in the UFC, so emotions on both sides. Just a great fight. I really had no plans to watch this event. It was just on. I clicked it, and then it was 4 hours later. Like, I did not expect to have a UFC-filled night, and I did, and I'm definitely glad I watched it because it was great entertainment. Shout out to Dana White and the boys for putting on such great shows. 3 of them, like I said, in 8 days, the pay-per-view and 2 fight nights. I don't watch UFC all the time, but I'm glad that I can count on them right now to give me some great entertainment between the fighters and the way they've adjusted to no fans and all that. Aside from that, we also give our thoughts on the Michael Jordan Last Dance documentary. The final 2 episodes actually air tonight, so we don't dig too deep into it, just our general thoughts on it. And we also discuss what other athlete or sports story could merit a 10-part documentary series like this. So hope you guys enjoy this episode. Thank you for clicking on, and enjoy. All right, so I'm here with Kramer of the Jagscast, just chilling, watching the UFC, actually.
Yeah, what's up?
What's up? And, I got to give hats off to UFC. Like, I just kind of put it on randomly, and it's every fight has been, like, an absolute war tonight.
Yeah, just about all of them, especially early in the early mid card has been really good.
Yeah, like I turned it on because like it was live sports, and we'll get to the fact that live sports are kind of coming back. We're getting the light at the end of the tunnel here, maybe. But I just put it on because it was happening, and I'm a pretty casual UFC fan. I used to be really into it, but like many other sports, Brock Lesnar killed it for me for a while. But I was like a big Tito Ortiz, Chuck Liddell, that whole era. Yeah, and it's always entertaining to watch. To me, it doesn't, with no crowd, like, yes, it'd be great to hear a roar of a crowd, but it almost gives you a whole nother appreciation for it because you hear every punch, every kick, you hear everything, you hear the corner people, you hear everything,
Yeah, no, I'm not a big UFC guy, but I actually don't mind watching what we've been watching tonight. I think this is, like, a whole lot better than, like, say, watching the WWE or, like, wrestling. Mm-hmm. Compared to this, for me, this is what we've been watching tonight. It's been just fine, especially with no crowd. I have no issues with it. Yeah, I mean, I appreciate the crowd. Like, there's been some, like, as I mentioned, there's been some good knockouts. There's been stuff that would get the crowd going, and I'm sure it'd be good to hear that, and get the reaction of the crowd. One thing they are doing, I wish I got the guy's name. Obviously, on the pay-per-view, they have like Joe Rogan making the call, but the commentator tonight, they have like a commentator camera, and they show you like his reactions to things. Yeah, and that's actually been kind of entertaining to see. Yeah, no, that's been funny to see some of their reactions and stuff. But like I said, like watching wrestling is a lot harder right now with no crowd. This is actually, like, I have no issues watching this with no crowd at all. And to me, I like being able to hear all the little things that go on during a fight.
Yeah, I mean, I think as someone who watches, like, you watch wrestling a little bit, I watch it definitely more than you do, we'd say, but, like, AEW is doing it better, but it's still not ideal. But again, what AEW is doing is they're putting about 10 to 12 people around the ring so that you get some semblance of a crowd. Yeah. So, that to me, that does make a world of difference, but it's obviously not, 20,000 people.
Yeah, but maybe it's just because the way UFC is. I guess maybe UFC doesn't need a crowd to be good, where with the WWE or AEW or some form of professional wrestling, it definitely helps.
I mean, I also think of it as this, like, the really popular show, The Ultimate Fighter, which is essentially, if you watch wrestling, it's, like, Tough Enough, and it's, I would almost say, the fighting equivalent of, like, American Idol. Yeah. And they would do their fights, like, in a gym with only, like, the teammates watching. Yeah. So maybe I'm just used to seeing it with not just in a huge arena. Yeah. But, I guess what I'm trying to say is hats off to them because I've been very entertained all night. I had no intention of watching this tonight. I literally turned it on, and that was, I think, 5 or 6 o'clock. Here, it's almost 10 o'clock now as we're recording. The main card is just now actually about to start, which is what we're kind of watching as we do this.
Yeah.
But no, it earned my viewership. It makes me want to watch another fight.
It's been worth watching tonight.
Yeah.
The only downside is ESPN doing what ESPN always does and just throw the worst story they can find about somebody down your throat for like 2 hours before the match starts.
Yeah, so we'll touch on this too because we haven't done a show since the draft, so I would like to backtrack to the draft. But obviously, the main event from tonight, I forget the fighter's name, Walter or something. I guess his daughter passed away about a year ago, and this was his first fight back.
Yeah.
And, I think you would be doing a disservice to not mention that because it's got to be a crazy journey. Yeah. But it does not need to be the centerpiece of this fight. He's fighting Overstar Overeem.
Yeah.
I think I butchered that a little bit, but you know who I'm talking about.
Yeah.
Who's a very well-renowned guy. He's in the main event. That could be the story right there. You don't need Alistar Overeem. I think that's how you say it. But it didn't need to be the center point.
Yeah, mention, show the story, but don't beat it into your head. This guy's fighting after his daughter died. This guy's fighting after his daughter died. This guy's fighting after his daughter died. Mention it once, and it's sad. It's an awful story, but I don't need that driven into the ground the way ESPN does with everything. With the way they do with the draft.
If you wanted to put it on the pre-show, because you always look for stories on the pre-show, you think College Game Day, that's usually when you see stuff like that, and then if you want to bring it up one more time right before the fight, that's acceptable.
Yeah.
But they're beating, and really this whole stigma for ESPN started during the draft, which we'll now talk about, because we meant to do an episode all about the draft, time got away from us, yada yada, things happen, but maybe they've done this before, and I haven't noticed it. But this year, and you saw it on Twitter too, so it's not like we're making this up. It seemed like every single
person
had if you had a loved one, have a hardship or pass away in the past your lifetime. ESPN's going to find it and talk about it.
Have a story about it.
Yeah,
that makes you feel sorry for them, and I get they try and they want you to root for the underdog and everything, but this ESPN just literally. I mean, I'm the only person they probably couldn't find something about was Joe Burrow.
Right.
Other than every other draft pick from pick 2 to pick 230, whatever Mr. Irrelevant was.
Right.
Everybody had a sob story of, my uncle died, my sister died in a car crash, and my best friend has leukemia.
And then even the ones that were relatively positive, there's one or two of this person's mother, was diagnosed with cancer, and then way later they mention, and she is now in remission. They just throw it in there. That wasn't even the point of the story.
Yeah.
But obviously this draft was different for not just that reason. Luckily, obviously this draft was virtual, all done through Zoom. Yeah. I gotta say, I was, we just bashed on ESPN for a little bit, but I gotta give them credit. This thing was as close to seamless as I could have asked for.
Yeah. As far as the way the show ran and the way they did it, it went off completely without a hitch. There was being all completely over the internet, essentially, is what it was, and using webcams and everything. The draft went perfectly, honestly. Them beating you over the head with everyone's sob story got annoying. But as far as the actual production of the show, it went perfect as I think it should, because it's 2020. We have the technology to do this.
Yeah.
So
I thought it was entertaining to see coaches and GMs in their homes with their families, seeing their office setups. Even Belichick got in the fun where he left the room and they went to him and his dog was sitting in the seat. I don't know if he necessarily planned that, but the fact that even he was able to look a smidge human, you gotta give him credit. And I don't think there was a single hitch at all.
No.
If there was, I missed it, and we were watching it, as intently as anybody.
The only thing, I guess, about it is nothing about the production of it. I mean, it all went off, like, from a technical standpoint perfectly, but just Goodell being Roger Goodell and being clueless idiot. I mean...
Yeah, I mean... I don't want to see... Goodell sitting in his basement eating M&Ms for 3 straight hours, like,
yeah.
But like,
or when he would do the super cringeworthy thing where he would like look at the screen behind him and they would show the fans on webcams and he'd be like,
"Come on,
come on, Boomy, come on!" And then like after that he'd be like, "So what'd you think of the pick, guys? Great pick, huh?" And it's just like he did that for every single team.
I could have done without the fans. I understand them trying to get people excited about it, but. Yeah. None of them had, like, each one, let's say there was 12 squares per thing. Almost none of them were all full, and it's not like there's not enough people to make this happen. Yeah. I don't know, did their internets go out at that moment? Like, who knows?
Anything that, if any technical glitch, and this is probably something ESPN couldn't control, but...
Sure, it would have been on the ends of the people.
The people whose webcam they tried putting on maybe didn't have the internet connection to, like... be on a webcam or something.
So I don't necessarily blame them for that, but if you didn't do the whole fans virtual Brady Bunch looking thing, like, I wouldn't have missed it. I wouldn't have been like, this draft needed more fans. Like, I wouldn't have thought that. But yeah, overall, I mean, it was that second night, because the third day obviously happens throughout the day, and they had, like, GMs and stuff do the picks, which they could have done a little more of that, I think. But that second night, Goodell was getting sleepy. He went from a button-up shirt to a T-shirt. They cut back to him, and he's in his lazy chair. That was kind of funny to me. It was getting old Roger there after a while.
Yeah, it's weird because, like, Roger Goodell is, like, the least personable person I've ever seen, where, like, whenever he speaks, he's constantly in, like, CEO mode.
Right.
Where, like, everything he says is scripted. And then even at this point, still, like, everything else he says is scripted, but, like, it looks like he's probably, like, pounded a bunch of beers and, like, ready to fall asleep in, like, his lazy boy chair.
Yeah, he's, like, taking swigs of vodka between takes and stuff. But, so, as we said, the production went pretty well. No real issues with that, so hats off to ESPN. Obviously, the draft was too long ago, and it would take too long to go through all the picks, but I guess we'll just hit the highlights.
Yeah.
The first 4 went about what we expect. Joe Burrow to the Bengals.
Yeah.
Chase Young to Washington. The Lions get the corner from Ohio State. And the Giants get a lineman. And then really, not that it was a surprise, but you weren't sure they're actually going to go through with it. The Dolphins get Tua.
Yeah.
And let me tell you, his family looks psyched, by the way.
Yeah. Yeah.
There was his dad, like, you would think the pick didn't come in yet. He was just sitting there, like, I don't know where else he'd want him to go. I mean, I don't know what he needed to be mad about. I mean, he wasn't going to the Bengals. He wasn't. The Redskins and Giants and Lions all think they still have a quarterback. I mean, I don't know if they thought somebody was going to trade up to get him, but I think it's a decent spot for Tua.
Yeah, no, and I think the Dolphins overall are a team that is going to be on the rise in future years. Like, Tua's obviously not going to play this year because of his injury.
He could play. I could see him playing towards the end of the year.
Maybe.
Depending on their situation.
Yeah, but, I mean, I think overall the Dolphins as a team are improving big time because I think the coach they have, Brian Flores, has a chance to really make the Dolphins a really solid team, and they stocked up big time on draft picks this year. So I think they made great improvements last year just throughout the season, especially beating New England to end the year. So now I think the Dolphins moving forward are actually moving in the right direction for the first time in probably over a decade at least.
While at the same time, their division is now as winnable as it's been in a decade, too.
Yeah.
Decade plus, really.
Yeah.
So, not a surprise, but for Justin Herbert to come off the board right after that to the Chargers, I think it's a good pick. You keep your West Coast guy in the West Coast. I think out of all the quarterbacks, like, Joe Burrow's got great upside. Tua has great upside. You don't know about his injury. Herbert was, like, the safest pick, I think, quarterback-wise.
I don't know. I mean, I might disagree. I think the Chargers obviously needed a good quarterback because they moved on from Phillip Rivers.
And he's definitely the best available at this point.
At that point, yeah. But I don't know. I think the Chargers could have done better in free agency rather than the draft. Like the Bengals and the Dolphins taking quarterbacks makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
Not that it doesn't make sense for the Chargers. It's just if I'm the Chargers, I could see I would have rather have signed Cam Newton and then maybe get like a mid-rounder quarterback somewhere just as a who knows, because I'm not sold on Justin Herbert. That's just me though.
Right. I mean, he's not a guarantee by any stretch.
Yeah.
And definitely, like, the Chargers were not in the situation because, like, they have players. They are a playoff caliber team, maybe borderline wild card.
Yeah.
So you're not going to give up a bunch of pieces to get a quarterback where they are.
Yeah.
They're too close to that, playoff level to do that. So for Herbert to fall in their lap, I don't knock them for it. I mean, I don't know where they would have went otherwise, especially with Phillip Rivers being gone. They're still trying to tell you that Tyrod Taylor is going to be the starter for them, and I've always liked him as a player. He's not like a bum or anything, but he's not the future of your franchise.
He's not going to put you over the top.
Absolutely not.
That's why I don't know. To me, I think Cam Newton would make really good, make a lot of sense in Los Angeles now for the Chargers. To me, Cam Newton just seems like a plug and play player, where like obviously he has downfall in Carolina, but there's still a ton of upside, in my opinion. And I think you put him in Carolina with a team that was in the playoffs now 2 years ago. Or LA.
Put him in LA, yeah. From Carolina.
Yeah. I think that the Chargers, and then you put someone to sit behind him, that's going to sit for a year or two. Because I think, like, had they drafted Justin Herbert and had Cam Newton. Yeah, I think that would be, that'd be really good for him because he can sit there and learn behind Newton and see what happens with Newton. But the Chargers are all in on Justin Herbert, I suppose.
I'm still pretty surprised that as we sit here, Cam Newton does not have a team. He's still a free agent. Jameis Winston went to New Orleans.
Yeah.
It could be because he's not ready to settle for a backup job. I mean, maybe that'll happen week 2 or 3 of the season if somebody gets hurt. Maybe he's waiting on that sort of situation.
I don't know. I think Cam Newton's too good to be a backup. If you sign Cam Newton, chances are he's going to be the best quarterback on your team unless you already have an established quarterback.
Right.
So to me, it's crazy. Jacksonville was able to trade Nick Foles. Not trying to knock Nick Foles, but like he did not have a good year at all.
No,
he was half hurt the season, and then he lost all 4 of his starts. But Jacksonville was able to trade Nick Foles, to the Bears for a 4th round pick. And here's Cam Newton, who has had almost as good of a career as Foles, getting to a Super Bowl as a starter.
Sure, winning an MVP.
And winning an MVP, but, like, to me, I feel like there's a somewhat, not really, I would say a circus, but, like, there's a lot of baggage that goes with Cam Newton, but I think he's good enough to where a team should sign him and he could start right away. I
mean, one of the only honestly, Jacksonville has been brought up plenty. Like, as a fan, is that someone you want?
Yeah. Most years, I would probably say yes, but considering the situation that Jacksonville's in right now, I would say no because I want to see what we have with Minshew.
And I think that's the situation in a lot of these places. Like you said, you almost can't bring him in as a backup, so, like, Arizona's not going to sign him and screw up Murray.
Murray, yeah.
Jacksonville's not going to sign him and try to screw up the progression to Minshew. There's probably a couple of teams that feel that way.
Yeah.
If this guy is... Denver was another conversation, but they think they have something with Drew. They're wrong, by the way. I don't think Drew Lock is much of anything, but they have to figure that out for themselves.
Maybe. Yeah. A team I could see doing that, though, is Washington, because I do not believe in Dwayne Haskins at all.
I don't either, but that's another situation where they have to learn that lesson for themselves, it seems like.
Yeah, I feel like out of all the guys from last year, Dwayne Haskins, even over Drew Lock, is probably going to be the biggest failure of all the quarterbacks.
Yeah, I don't disagree necessarily. We moved down a little bit. The Eagles make a couple head-scratching moves. They take a receiver, but they don't take the one that people think they need, which, it's Rager from TCU. Guy looks fine. He doesn't wow me or anything. It's not so much who we took, it's who we left on the board, because then the Cowboys went and got CeeDee Lamb.
Yeah.
And it really does remind me of, I remember sitting there, it was like the same feeling, which I haven't had since this happened, when the Cowboys drafted Dez Bryant. I was like, well, shit. That's going to be a pain in the ass for, like, 6 years.
Yeah, it's one of those things where, like, when your big rival makes a move,
a really
that's
flashy
really good
offensive player, yeah,
and a really good move, it's like, fuck, they're going to be they made the right decision.
But at the same time, like, not that I'm discrediting Des Bryant, and I'm not saying he wasn't good. I never feared him when we played.
Yeah,
and maybe I will grow to fear CeeDee Lamb. Maybe he'll be more like Amari Cooper as a guy that, yes, that's the guy you have to stop.
Yeah.
Obviously, they still have Amari Cooper over there, so that's still an issue. They still have all their stuff going on with Dak, which could be a whole episode in itself.
Yeah, I was saying, luckily for you, even though they have CeeDee Lamb, I mean, the guy throwing the ball, I mean, if it's Dak Prescott, he's average at best.
Yeah.
Like, he's Kirk Cousins, except he wins more games.
Yeah, he's got a little more clutch in him than Kirk Cousins, for sure. Yeah, the year that he came out as a rookie and they were firing on all cylinders, and Green Bay barely beat them in that playoff game. I don't know if we were watching it together or I talked to you afterwards, but I remember thinking that was their chance. You think they have this future ahead of them, and they do. It's not like they're going to be a bad team, but that was really their shot.
That was one of their better teams they've had in the past 10 years, I'd say. And Dak, I feel like every young quarterback that comes in the league now has a 2-year period where they're just the hottest thing in football. We've seen it with Dak, we've seen it with Jared Goff, we've now seen it with Jimmy Garoppolo.
We saw it with Wentz.
Wentz.
To me, when that happens, that's a combination of two things. That's a combination of the film isn't quite there yet. They haven't quite figured you out. Mm-hmm. And the fact that and the Rams went for broke on this, broke being the key word, because they've got a lot of issues right now. When your franchise quarterback is still on a rookie deal and you can go blow money on all these other pieces and you get your chance. So it's between both of those things that you get that opportunity. And some teams like Carolina with Newton, they always got to a Super Bowl. The Eagles won a Super Bowl with a combination of their rookie, or not their rookie, but their young quarterback. Yeah. Goff, like you said, got to a Super Bowl. Matt Ryan was almost the exception. It took him his second contract to finally break the. Flacco did the same thing. He got broken off after the fact, but they were able to build that team because of his lower salary. So, really the window on quarterbacks that aren't your Peyton Mannings and your Bradys is a lot smaller than people realize. When Carolina lost their Super Bowl, nobody thought, they're completely done, but they kind of were. They didn't sniff anything close to that.
Yeah, no, they have not been the same since. And I was not a believer in this until, pretty much, I think until the Panthers lost is the Super Bowl hangover, but that is a real thing, and teams do not recover from losing after that to the Super Bowl afterwards.
I mean, it takes a guy like Peyton Manning to if anyone deserved a Super Bowl hangover, it was them for getting their asses handed to them by Seattle to turn around and win 50. I can't remember. Was there a year in between that, or was that a back-to-back deal?
No, there was a year in between because that was 2013. Then when they won was 2015.
Right. Yeah. So, but the fact that they were able to get back there. No, Super Bowl hangover definitely is a real thing. I think it's how your team reacts to it is really the Eagles. The hangover of winning one can be bad sometimes too, and they did a decent defense of their title. Obviously, having other injuries break in.
I don't know. I don't see the Eagles as having a Super Bowl hangover because even though they haven't been 2017 level good.
I think they had a literal hangover from celebrating, though. Yeah. That might be the difference.
I mean, they're in the playoffs every year, which the losing team doesn't do.
Yeah, that's
because right. They were in the next year and they were a dropped pass from Alshon Jeffrey from beating the Saints, and
yes, but the narrative on that to me is a little harsh. It's not like he drops it in the end zone. They're on the 40. There's a lot more stuff had to happen.
No, I get that. But
he
still,
ended it, but it wasn't he's not
But still, Foles made the throw. The play was there to be made, and Alshon Jeffrey, literally dropped the ball on that one.
Yeah, yeah.
And then you guys made the playoffs last year, and with a team that had no business being in the playoffs.
No, not at all.
You guys
I'm pretty sure I'd play like receiver there for a little while.
Yeah, no, you guys had a ton of injuries, and yet just the guts of the Eagles, it's that championship mentality. You guys still got to the playoffs and got as far as you could.
And really, I mean, we lost to Seattle. It was like 17-9, or I know we scored.
It was
9.
an ugly game.
Ugly game because, of course, Carson Wentz gets knocked out, which people claim that's part of he's injury prone. If you get blasted in the back of your skull and get a concussion, that's not you being injury prone. That'll happen to literally anybody that gets speared in the back of the head.
Yeah, that was just a dirty play by I forget who it was.
Clowney.
Yeah,
Clowney, right?
Clowney from Seattle, but. Yeah,
who is now rumored to maybe be an Eagle next year. We'll see on that, I guess.
That'll be awkward in the locker room.
Yes, it will.
Yeah.
So, a little receiver talk there. We'll wrap up. I don't know how I want to go about this. All right, we'll just go in the order that it happened. Day one of the draft is wrapping up, and we're like, all right, well, that's cool. We had some sort of sporting event. We had our drinks. We watched the thing.
Yeah.
And one of the last picks, the Packers says, but wait. There's more.
Yeah.
And they draft Jordan Love, quarterback out of Utah State. Not only did they draft him, but they traded up to draft him.
Yeah.
And the whole world, exploded.
Yeah.
Because everybody was, half asleep because the draft's almost over and it's late at night.
Yeah.
Quick segue. Why does it have to start so damn late?
I don't know.
It started at 8 Eastern, right?
Listen, you're preaching to the choir here because I was going nuts
waiting for it to
start because the draft is supposed to start at 8 o'clock.
Yep.
All right, the draft starts. Well, no, it doesn't start.
Yep.
The show starts.
Yeah.
And then you got to look at Roger Goodell's stupid face and talk about whatever
15, 20 minutes.
Then they got to show a montage of coronavirus related things.
Mm-hmm. In case you didn't know already.
Yeah, in case you weren't aware that the whole world is shut down at the moment.
Yeah.
And then you got to watch the national anthem. And then you got to watch more coronavirus, nonsense. And then finally, 16 minutes after the show starts, they put the Bengals on the clock.
Not their pick is in. They put them on the clock.
They start the actual draft.
I don't see why they couldn't put them on the clock. If you want to do all this shit, that's fine. But start 8:02.
Yeah, put the Bengals on the
Welcome
clock.
to the NFL Draft. I'm Roger Goodell. Thanks for being here.
Yeah.
The Bengals are now on the clock. Boom. Then show all your stuff.
And then the Bengals take all fucking 10 minutes to make the pick.
I've wavered on this. I've always wondered that. How do you... they shorten the time between picks in the later rounds.
Yeah.
To me, that's when you need that extra time.
Yeah.
So, anyone that's listening to this has probably done a fantasy football draft. Your first couple picks, boom, boom, boom. Oh, this guy's taken. I'll take this guy instead. It's when you get down there and you're picking between Dion Lewis and an old Marshawn Lynch, and you don't know where to go. Those are the picks you need a couple minutes on. So I'm convinced that it's really not the players or the teams taking that long. I think it's just them spacing it out on TV.
Yeah, because then 8:25 when the show started at 8 o'clock. 8:25, the first pick is in Joe Burrow. We all knew this back in January 1st to December 31st, whenever Week 17 ended, and we saw that the Bengals had the number 1 overall pick. We knew who they were taking.
Right.
It drove me up a tree.
Yeah. So I'm glad we got that out though, because it needed to be said.
Yeah.
But back to Jordan Love. Is the pick a bad pick? Not necessarily, but it is when Rodgers needs help. He needs offensive weapons. Needs, the only thing he doesn't need is a running back, and that's what they got in the second round. So,
here's the thing. There's what's one of your most controversial opinions? To me, I don't think it was that bad of a pick. Now, I get the Packers were in the NFC Championship game last year, and Aaron Rodgers was there with literally nobody.
Yeah.
But Aaron Rodgers, over the past 4 years, has been more injury prone than he has been earlier in his career. So I can understand them making a move to looking towards the future. Was it the right move in the first round? Maybe not. But I can understand them taking a quarterback and saying, listen, we need this guy to sit behind you for a year, and this is where we're getting him at.
See, the thing, I agree with this is one of the positive things about we didn't do this right after the draft. We've had time to figure it out. With the Packers' new regime, they've said Aaron Rodgers isn't necessarily our future 5 years down the road.
Yeah.
They've kind of made that known now, and really, Jordan Love was taken. Aaron Rodgers was taken when Brett Favre was still there, when Brett Favre was 35 years old.
Yeah.
And Aaron Rodgers is now 36.
Yeah.
So this is on brand for the Packers. This didn't come out of absolutely nowhere.
Yeah, and that's why I don't necessarily disagree with this pick.
Mm-hmm. The one difference that's been made, and it's a good point, the Aaron Rodgers fell to the Packers.
Yeah.
The Packers traded up to get Jordan Love.
Yeah.
Which might have been, the biggest difference. But to me, the teams they traded up, just looking at it in front of me, was Seattle, Baltimore, and Tennessee. Tennessee just paid Tannehill. Seattle's got Russell Wilson, and Baltimore's got Lamar Jackson and two other good quarterbacks behind him. So did they really need to trade up? Did it need to make it look that worse? Like, were they really worried one of those teams, unless they're worried someone else is trading up back into the first?
That's the only thing I can think of is, like, at some point, I guess maybe they just get impatient, and they're like, look, these other teams aren't taking quarterbacks, but what if someone else trades up to get this guy?
I mean, that had to have been it. I mean, based on the teams that were ahead of them, I don't think they were really concerned that they were the ones that were going to take a quarterback. It must have been, somebody trying to move back in. Maybe they were worried the Patriots wanted to do it or something because they had the draft capital to do it.
Yeah.
Which, quick note, no quarterbacks taken by the Patriots this draft. Little interesting note, right?
Interesting, yeah. I wouldn't be shocked. Well, maybe I would. I don't know. Who the hell knows what Belichick's thinking right now?
Yeah.
It's like, Belichick's a good enough coach where he can coach guys up to be better than what they are, just, even with the whole cheating thing, which is what really pisses me off about the Patriots. But, like, I could also see the Patriots being a team that signs Cam Newton. Like, now that wouldn't be very Belichick-like, but you gotta think Cam Newton is better than Jason Stidham or whatever that guy's name is they have that used to be the backup to Brady.
Yeah, no, I don't doubt that he's better at all either. I mean, Cam Newton's better than easily a third of the starters, I would say, in the NFL.
Well, yeah.
So it's just a matter of maybe it'll happen later in the, if Stidham is that bad, or really just a week or two into the preseason, Belichick figures that out.
Yeah.
That could be another thing. I mean, the quarterback situation, of course, gets a little more tricky down the line here because the Eagles take
Jalen Hurts.
Yeah, I don't know how I just forgot that, but yeah, so they take Jalen Hurts from Alabama/Oklahoma.
Oh, Oklahoma, yeah, that was the most head scratching.
Yeah, this to me, it's more head scratching than the Packers pick because I still look at him as a project. I don't look at him as a prospect.
No, I don't.
He is a more raw Kyler Murray, and even Kyler Murray is a little bit of a project. Still.
I see him more like, maybe this is being a little disrespectful, but I see him more like a Tebow more than anything. Like, to me, this guy, there are certain quarterbacks like you see come from college that, like, they're successful in college, but their game does not transfer to the NFL.
Yeah, there's guys you just know.
Yeah, like, to me, Jalen Hurts, even though he won a national championship in Alabama and all he did was win there, he's not an NFL caliber quarterback from watching him on TV. Like, to me, I don't see a guy who's going to go out there and make the throws you would need to make in the NFL and be successful. I mean,
I'd say the best comp I could give him is even like Terrell Pryor, a guy that was good enough to start on a bad team.
Yeah, like I would even say like maybe even this is stretching.
I got to give him a little more than Tebow is all I'm saying. I guess
I would say like if because this guy had a different career in college than he did in the NFL, but if I had to like pick an NFL career for this guy, like maybe Sam Bradford. Maybe he can like make the short completions. Maybe. But I don't see him being the guy that's going to go out there and, win you the game. Like at best I could see a Sam Bradford where he just goes out there, he can he'll make like the short 5-yard completion. Yeah. But like throwing the ball down the field, I just don't see it.
I think, and this definitely gets talked about, like it's the Taysom Hill effect.
Yeah.
That some of these guys are kind of getting their gadget guy, which is something you see in college. There was a lot of talk about, like, oh, he's going to be the next Taysom Hill, which I could see that over anything else. Like, I don't like. Whereas Aaron Rodgers was probably insulted about the Jordan Love pick. If I'm Carson Wentz, I'm not insulted by this. This is not a guy that's taking my job. It's just not.
No. Honestly, I hate to say it like this, but I think it was just a waste of a pick.
It kind of was.
Where they got him.
Yeah.
And with the Eagles' needs, I think it was just a waste of a pick.
Yeah, if we're talking third round, fourth round, it's just bring the guy in, bring it on.
Yeah.
Yes, quarterback room is a little thin. I was going into this not going to be shocked if the Eagles got a quarterback from somewhere, but this is not who I expected. Quick question: when this happens, when a guy does like a grad transfer deal, do they just take on? I wonder if it's up to them. Like, is he going to forever say Jalen Hurts, Oklahoma? Or is it going to...
I would assume the latest college that he played at.
I think that's normally how it goes.
Although most people are probably going to remember him from Alabama.
I think so.
Because he won a championship there.
Right.
So, when I think of Jalen Hurts, I think of Alabama. I mean, he played his final year at Oklahoma. But
and he played fairly well. If not for an upset, and they still make the playoff? I don't even remember. But... if not for a slip-up at Kansas State.
Yeah.
Actually, no, they did, because I'm pretty sure they got... No, that was Georgia that got destroyed by LSU.
Yeah.
But, yeah, I mean, still, he had a more than respectable career in his one season at Oklahoma. Yeah. There's no doubt about that. But, yeah, he'll be remembered for being an Alabama guy.
Yeah.
In a situation where, other than Tua, of course, Alabama quarterbacks don't get remembered. Like, the only one, was it Jake Coker, who came from Florida State, which I still remember him more from Florida State than anything.
Yeah.
McElroy, the dude that's on College Game Day now, McElroy.
Not Roy
McElroy.
Greg McElroy. Yeah.
He was on the Jets with Tebow. That's the kind of caliber of talent we're talking about here prior to these guys.
Yeah. Honestly, I think the best quarterback Alabama's had since their run has started was A.J. McCarron. And, obviously he's been a career backup his whole life, in Cincinnati, which I still, now I think he was on Buffalo. I don't know where he's now, but I still don't think he ever got a fair shot to start, though.
Yeah. Whereas Aaron Murray, which was like the same level when they came out, was given many chances. He was even in the XFL this past year.
Yeah.
Which, RIP the XFL. There's been rumors that they're looking for a buyer. I don't if you have the patience nor the strength to talk about anything about XFL coming back, because I'm still hurting from the AAF, so I can't even bring myself to look into that kind of stuff. If it happens, it happens. If it doesn't, it wasn't meant to be.
I think
they got a bad rap, though. I mean, they were doing nothing wrong when this all happened.
Yeah, no, the AAF was a disaster financially because of the guy running the show.
Yeah,
the XFL, I think, financially worked, whether they people were watching or not. I think it worked.
People were watching, though. That's the thing.
Yeah, and I think they'll be back next year, even though the XFL this year got totally screwed because of the coronavirus and couldn't finish their season. I think they'll be I think they will be back next year.
Yeah, I mean, I'm rooting for it. I just can't.
Luckily, Jim McMahon or Vince McMahon is funding it, so. Yeah. So they have money. They're not going bankrupt like the AAF did 2 years ago.
Yeah, I mean they did. I heard they filed for bankruptcy. I heard he was suing Oliver Luck because he kind of just ghosted when the COVID thing happened. There's been a lot of stuff that's come out about this. So who really knows?
I could see them rebounding though, because Vince McMahon has a ton of money.
Yeah, and
so I think the original XFL went under for different reasons.
Definitely.
I don't see the XFL going under just because of coronavirus. I see them coming back next year.
It's so funny. Well, it's not funny, but it is. The AAF started a year before it.
Yeah.
If the XFL would have started last year.
Yeah.
And obviously COVID didn't happen last year.
Yeah.
They would have had a season under their belt.
Yeah.
And that would have put so much. They were already in video games talks. They really had this thing rolling. If they would have completed a year, it really is another thing,
Yeah, this is one of those situations where I feel bad for Vince McMahon.
Yeah.
Because this was, the original XFL failed. They got the whole season under their belt, like they crowned a champion.
Yeah.
But then they did nothing after that.
You knew it was the end, yeah.
Yeah, with this, it's like, Vince McMahon, like, he did it right, because the original XFL was kind of a joke with the way they did everything. Like, they had some good ideas that obviously transitioned to the NFL, but, like, the way the season ended, though, I feel like it all turned into a joke and, like, kind of WWE-ish.
Yeah.
Where this time, Vince McMahon wanted it to be real football with his, crazy thinking of his new ideas and stuff. And then now they got screwed over by the coronavirus.
Yeah. So yeah, I mean, it'd be great to see them back. I'm not going to hold my breath about it, but it was something I was enjoying it. I didn't watch every single game like I did the AAF, but I watched a lot of it.
Yeah.
And I remember even hearing like the Tampa team was even in talks to move to Orlando, which everybody saw that coming a mile away. So yeah, we'll see what happens. To wrap up the draft talk though, because I would have kicked myself had I not remembered. We have this past year, especially with the Niners run to the Super Bowl, we had a lot to be proud of where we live here in Volusia County in Florida because of running back Raheem Mostert, who went to me and Kramer's high school, making it to the NFL. Our high school, while there's been a handful of guys, it's not a pro factory or by any means, but we did have another New Smyrna Beach Barracuda make it in the NFL. Via this draft from Darrington Evans, the running back from Appalachian State, went in the third round to Tennessee, which is a great fit for him with Derrick Henry.
Yeah.
Little smash, little dash, little 1-2 punch, thunder and lightning combination, which is something Tennessee seems to always want to build. I think back to Chris Johnson and Lendell White. So that gives us currently 4 Cudas in the NFL. You got Raheem Mostert, you got Darrington Evans, you got Cole Holcomb, the linebacker for the Redskins, and then you got Dakota Dixon, who is currently on the Buccaneers. So to have 4 guys in the NFL from our little high school, it's pretty cool.
Yeah, no, it is. I mean, it's crazy because for a long time, New Smyrna only had one guy to really hang their hat on, which was Dallas Baker, who was at best a practice squad player for the Steelers. He did get a ring.
Did get a ring.
But like that was the only guy we had for a while. Which he was great for. In high school, and he
won a national title with the Gators. So,
But then, he only had a so-so career with the Steelers.
Right.
Whereas now we have, Raheem Mostert, who he went undrafted, but he has like the ultimate underdog story though.
Right. And now everybody knows who he is. Like he'll forever be remembered because of that NFC Championship. Whether the Niners bounce back, win a ring, or he goes somewhere else and wins a ring or not, he has carved out his little piece of the NFL, which is really cool to see.
Yeah, and it's just crazy to think. I remember playing football with him at Whistle Stop Park, which is a park where we live locally in Edgewater, Florida,
where the kids play football and everything. Yeah, I mean, it is really cool, and with Darrington, I do some work. I'm a cameraman by trade, and I do some work for the high school now, and my first year working there was his senior year, so I got to see, you could tell he was the best player on the team, so like some of his senior highlights were stuff that I filmed, which is pretty cool.
Yeah.
And then, they moved on since then, and yeah, I mean, it's neat to see. It's not something we're used to here, and I think it is proof of like how things are going.
Yeah.
With our football programming, everybody likes to see guys make it from our area.
Yeah.
Or from wherever you're listening, you love to see guys from your area make it places.
Yeah.
So it was definitely cool to see. It makes you proud when you're from a small town, and I feel like a lot of people can relate to that, and it was definitely a cool thing to see. So, other than UFC, other than the NFL draft, and actually today, soccer resumed in Germany, which, as the soccer guy that I am, watched a little Bundesliga action. No fans. It was a little weird, but, it's still something to watch. One of the only other things that's really been keeping people going in the sports world is, of course, the Last Dance documentary, which I hope to do an episode when it's all done. The last 2 come out tomorrow night, probably the night of when I release this. But it's got a lot of people talking. It's kind of become like a sporting event. Like, people live tweet it. They talk about things as it's happening. You talk about it the next day. I never expected, like, a 10-part documentary seems a bit much.
Yeah.
Because they made it sound like, okay, this is about the last Bulls championship year.
Yeah.
And I'm like, 10 hours on one season? But what really happened is it's basically the life of Michael Jordan.
Yeah.
Like, life and career of Michael Jordan. Nobody is really calling this hey, are you watching the Bulls documentary? I mean, it talks about plenty of other guys, but this is the Michael Jordan legacy.
This is one giant 30 for 30 about Michael Jordan's life.
Absolutely. And because right when it starts, they start you, in, was it 1997, 1998, talking about, they just won their fifth, and they're talking about how Phil Jackson could go 82-0, and he's still not coming back to the Bulls. And then they bring you back to him in high school. They tell you about him getting cut from high school, him going to North Carolina, everything. And, they give you some Dennis Rodman stuff a couple episodes in. They let you know about his gambling. This has been in the works for a long time. It actually planned to come out. I think it was going to come out like in June. It was going to come out after the finals. It was going to be a way to keep like NBA in people's mind after the finals. Yeah. And they made the amazing call of moving this thing upwards to give us something to watch now. And I know you've only watched a couple of them. Yeah. But I mean, I think it's beautifully done. It's definitely got, funny enough, my introduction to Michael Jordan was actually, I mean, this is, 1997, 1998. I'm born in 92, so I'm only 5 years old when all this is happening. Yeah. Same with you. My introduction to Michael Jordan was actually Space Jam. Yeah. So really, like, the first three, I obviously knew nothing about. No. And then I watched Michael Jordan, and spoilers if you haven't seen it, the end of Space Jam, the ending credits, Michael Jordan comes out of retirement, and he's running out of the tunnel for the Bulls. Yeah. So this is essentially picks up where Space Jam lets off, and that's when I started watching basketball. Yeah. It was the first sport I ever watched, because it was the only sport that we had a team. I wrapped my head around as a little kid. Oh, these guys are playing only an hour away from us, and I fell in love with the Magic. Yeah. Basketball, other than wrestling, was like the first thing I started watching. And, Michael Jordan was everybody's second favorite player. You had your favorite player on your team, and then you had Michael Jordan. Yeah. And, this thing's been great. I guess we won't dig too deep into it because I want to do a whole episode when they're all done. But just in general, I mean, how cool has this been to even the parts that you've seen? Yeah, no, I think it's really cool because to me, like, we're both the same age and we grew up right in, as Jordan was winning his, in the second part of his Bulls career, winning the second three-peat. Yeah. It was literally like watching a modern day Babe Ruth in his era, in his time. Like, he's the greatest basketball player to ever live. It's just debatable for some people, but I think to most people they would agree he's the best basketball player of all time. And we grew up watching him. Even I wasn't a big basketball guy, as a little kid, but I still knew who he was. I knew who the Bulls were, and I knew he won every year, basically. You know who Rodman was? I mean, I know who Horace Grant was because, of course, he came to the Magic after, but, like, you knew, it was like knowing who the Beatles were. Like, it really was. And, I even having memories of Jordan on the Wizards. Like, I even have, some of those. Because and then you remember... I remember, like, Allen Iverson crossing over MJ and all that stuff, but, like, it's crazy. If anyone deserves and it's funny because each episode is an hour. Yeah. So if they wanted to, they could have, and they drop 2 a night when they do it. So you could have called it all one episode and made it a 2-hour episode and said it was 5 parts. But guess what? 10 parts sounds better. Yeah. So, like, I get it. But no, it's been great. I'm really looking forward to. It's funny, like, to say the sentence. I'm looking forward to how it ends because we know how it ends. But they still made it entertaining enough. There's very few things like that. One of the best-selling movies in the world is the Titanic. We all knew the boat was going down when we sat in the theater. It doesn't mean the movie wasn't good. Yeah. So no, it's gonna be. It really was a cultural thing. Everybody, most people watched it either live or right after. It's kind of what the sports world needed at the time, so it's another tip my hat to ESPN, I guess. Yeah. This definitely opens up, I guess you can call it a can of worms, because to not be outdone, obviously, the WWE is dropping a 5-part doc on The Undertaker's career. Yeah. Which the first one was out last Sunday. I watched it. It was pretty good. It was really cool because a lot of it based around
what was supposed to be the Undertaker's retirement at WrestleMania 33 in Orlando, which I was at. So it was kind of cool to like see what was going on at the WrestleMania that I went to.
Yeah.
And then they're going to do, 4 more or whatever. So now the question is, the cat's out of the bag. More of these elongated. I love 30 for 30s because there's not a set time period. There's ones that are, or time length. There's ones that are 45 minutes. There's ones that are 2 hours. It doesn't matter. So this is almost like a 30 for 30 on steroids, which is kind of what you were saying earlier.
Yeah.
So the Undertaker's already happening, and they're kind of in bed with ESPN already, so I'm sure they had something to do with this one already.
Yeah.
My question for you is, who would you want to see the next 30 for 30 on steroids be about? So something more than, like, something you would watch in more than one day. Because there's plenty of 30 for 30s I can think of.
Yeah.
But what deserves this attention?
Like this much attention?
This much attention. Like, there's plenty of great 30 for 30 topics.
Yeah.
But something more than that.
Well, with Michael Jordan, he definitely deserves all the attention and a 10-part series because there's so much to get into with him because obviously how he got started and the rocky start that he had through college and high school and everything, to him being an all-star to winning championships, quitting basketball, playing baseball, and then coming back. I'm trying to think. There's very few guys where they could do something of this magnitude about. Yeah. Especially this day and age. I would have to think like maybe. I'm trying to think like a football player, but like most all-time great football players have a pretty steady careers. Yeah. Where that Jordan didn't have a steady career, it's just there's a lot to it, like with everything that happened to his career.
Like there's already been plenty of things on Deion Sanders. I think is something that could have maybe garnered this, but they've already made so many others, it wouldn't feel as special.
Yeah.
Like, when I look for something like this, like, I want something that I get to learn new stuff. Like, I learn new stuff watching this.
Yeah.
So, to me, being, like, a casual baseball fan, I almost think you could do a Derek Jeter one.
Yeah, because the thing with Jeter is that, he played his whole career in New York with the Yankees, and everyone remembers him, but he had a very prominent social life. Mm-hmm. Now he was never a big guy outside of the media on his own, but he dated supermodels basically. Mm-hmm. He was always like in the limelight just literally by accident, just because he happened to be dating whoever the hottest supermodel at the time was.
And he was kind of lucky because the bulk of his career, like the internet was a thing, but social media wasn't quite where it is now. Yeah, like it was really coming up around the time he retired.
Yeah,
so.
Yeah, no, because I did think about him. I'm trying not to sound biased because I am a Yankees fan.
Right, so, I mean, I said it so you didn't have to. I also thought of Rivera. I don't know that it quite can fit 10 people or 10 parts.
10, yeah.
But all I know is Mariano Rivera does have the greatest sports stat. My favorite sports stat of all time is that more men have walked on the moon than hit.
Scored
a run on him in the playoffs, right?
Yeah.
Which it's that, and my other one is Larry Fitzgerald has more tackles than drop passes in his career.
Yeah.
Those are my 2 favorite sports stats of all time.
Yeah. I think an interesting one, if we were to do a 30 for 30, would be maybe Michael Irvin of the Cowboys. Because I feel like he had a very interesting career from coming up from nothing to like going to Miami, then playing for the Cowboys.
I think to do Irvin, I think you could almost broaden it and have to do Jimmy Johnson.
Yeah.
Because all of these guys, Irvin, Emmett, Aikman, in college and pro, had interactions with him, and then of course Jerry Jones. Yeah. I think you'd almost have to broaden it to.
Yeah,
I'm surprised there hasn't been a regular 30 for 30 on the Cowboys dynasty yet. Yeah. I'm actually very surprised that hasn't happened.
Yeah, the other guy I was thinking of, I don't know if they could do a 10-part series. I don't know if there's enough there, but like Peyton Manning, I mean,
maybe the Manning family.
Yeah, possibly. Like growing up as children of an NFL quarterback. Yeah. Archie Manning, the Saints player.
It's really hard. Like you would think like. there's plenty of things I want them to do deep dives of, but some of them, like a normal 30 for 30, will suffice.
Yeah.
So it's pretty hard to pick. Like Ric Flair, they already made a 30 for 30 on. He probably could have had something like this.
They probably could have done more. Like, I mean, granted, they covered a lot in his 30
His
for 30.
His 30 for 30 is really good.
Yeah. But I suppose if they wanted to really like dig deep into like everything, they could have like stretched it out more than they did.
Yeah, there's definitely stuff like that left. That being said, I guess you do one on Hulk Hogan. I mean, he's not as prominent. He's not as liked in the media as maybe years ago.
I think with Hulk Hogan, I think a lot of the dislike about him has come later on in his career.
Definitely, yeah.
Especially with all the bad things that have happened to his family since then, with him getting divorced, his son getting into the car accident that hurt that one dude's life. So
yeah,
it's unfortunate. So I'm trying to think because like when I think of this, like this is going back a long ways, but you could have done one of these about like say Joe DiMaggio.
Yeah.
Like
definitely.
if Joe DiMaggio played in present times, you could easily do one on in his life because he had a wild career and personal life too. With playing in New York, dating Marilyn Monroe, one of the biggest supermodels of all time, and stuff like that,
right?
And everything.
And the other thing is, with these, like you said, Joe DiMaggio, it'd be great, but like the footage isn't there. Clearly,
yeah.
There's a lot of this footage we're seeing for the first time. I forgot. I think HBO was originally supposed to make this, so a lot of this footage comes from an HBO crew that we've never. The thing of I don't know if you saw when he's playing quarters in the locker room with the security guard, and the security guard actually beats him in something. Like we've never seen that before.
No,
and like again, I'll deep dive more in this when I do like a full one, but like. People, it always comes back to the Jordan LeBron thing. If they're anywhere close, keep in mind that Jordan was doing this while staying out till 2 a.m. gambling in casinos. Partying as hard as he played. It's a different animal.
Yeah. No, it really is. Like, the only, like, a guy I could see comparable to this would be, like, say, a Shaq.
Yeah.
Like, think about it. Like, Shaq has had, like, the not necessarily a rocky career, but just like an interesting
very
career.
Memorable career.
Yeah, very memorable.
Inside, out, in, on and off the court.
Yeah,
is the thing.
Yeah, so. with both, because like he has the off the field, not I don't say issues, but off the field stories.
Yeah, stories.
And then also the on the field stories with playing great for the Magic as a young player, then asking for a trade to the Lakers and all that nonsense, winning championships with Kobe Bryant, then
playing for a third of the league towards the end of his career.
Yeah. Winning a championship with the Heat.
Yeah.
So.
So I mean, I think so. The ones we've agreed on, they could have done Ric Flair. That ship has sailed.
Yeah.
Jeter and then Shaq are the only two we've really come up with because it really takes a lot to get. Maybe not 10 parts, but 6, 7, 8.
All right, I got another one. Just this guy popped in my head.
We got
Terrell Owens.
I thought of him. I don't think it's 10 parts. I think it's a 30 for 30. I do think.
I think they could do. All right, 10 parts is a lot.
Yeah.
But they could do more than a 30 for 30 on TO.
You could do
there
a 30
is a lot there.
Like the only time they've ever done a part 1 and a part 2 was the Miami, University of Miami. So TO could almost have 2 parts.
TO could be 2 parts
for sure.
Yeah.
So as we're saying our goodbyes, let everyone know we're working on a little project over on your podcast. Why don't you just quickly let us know? It's me, you, and your brother Craig. We've been doing something to kind of kill the time in this quarantine. Let everybody know what we've been working on.
All right. What we're doing is basically a March Madness style tournament, since the real March Madness got canceled this year, of the greatest Super Bowl champions of all time. Where basically we go through every single team that has won the Super Bowl since my brother Craig has been alive. So the past 32, it makes for an even bracket.
Right.
The past 32 Super Bowl winners, and we just look at like their season, how great the team was, who was on the team, and we compare like if these two teams were to play each other, who would win, and we try and determine who's the greatest Super Bowl champion of the past 32 years, dating back to 1987.
Yeah, and we're 2 parts in.
Yes,
of it so far. So this might actually be something that's 10 parts. So that'll be kind of cool when we get to the end of it.
Yeah, yeah.
So parts 1 and 2 are out. We're gonna film a couple more, or record a few more coming here soon.
Yeah.
So definitely catch up on the first 2. The first couple rounds, the episodes are going to be longer because we break down the entire season and playoff run of these teams.
Yeah.
And then moving forward, like that's already been said, so they'll speed up a little bit.
Yeah.
But it's been fun taking some of these teams we know more than others. Obviously, some we were really little when these happened. Some I remember like it was yesterday.
Yeah.
And my gimmick on there is I try to find a roster oddity on every one of these teams, which has been surprisingly easily. There's always some guy on a Super Bowl roster that you're like, really?
That guy was there? Yeah.
Yeah, so that's been my gimmick on that show. So definitely check that out. How do we find that again?
That'll be at Jagscast. It's pretty simple. There's nothing else to it. At Jagscast, that's where you'll find me on Twitter. You'll find the podcast on there, on all the social media podcasts on iTunes, SoundCloud, Spreaker, YouTube, Twitter.
There you go. So that's what we've been having fun with. So go ahead and check that out at Jagscast. And obviously, thank you for listening to this one today, which is at Phil Talk Sports. Go ahead and search the same thing on YouTube. The first thing that'll come up is a playlist with this and every other podcast I've ever done. So thank you guys for listening, and I'll see you next time.
See ya.